Everyone, welcome to we have two more of these. This is our fourth equine fitness mini training, and we today are going to talk about phases in a fitness program for your horse. And just as a reminder, I'm doing these mini trainings to give you a sense of what the equine fitness workshop is like. They're these mini trainings, but on steroids. We go deeper into things and really talk about, what's behind them and the how and that kind of stuff. That Equine Fitness workshop starts on Tuesday evening. It's a 3 session workshop. There are live calls that are on every Tuesday for 3 weeks in a row, starting May 5th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, Mountain Daylight Time. And if you can't attend, it's okay. I will send the recording of those sessions to you. So join on live, like sign up, join live if you can, because you're going to be able to get your questions answered in real time, which is crazy powerful. But you also can get the recording, study it later, email me with questions, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really good. I'm really excited about the content. And I think that it is going to be helpful to you to help like set your horse up to be the most skilled and effective at his job that he or she can be, and decreases risk of injury. As we all know, horses, are a wild card for keeping them sound. And, well, I shouldn't say wild card. There's a lot of things we can do to increase the chance of keeping our horse sound. There's also a lot of things that just happen because, I don't know, they just happen. It's horses, right? But we want to do everything we can to kind of push that back so that we have a bigger soundness, like swim lane, if you will. So I will put in the comments below this the link to sign up. I really hope to see you there. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shelly Thomas. I am a physical therapist and a rider. I have a business called Intrepid Wellness, and I work with horses and riders to help them be better athletes. So this is all part of that. Okay, let's get started with our today's mini training, phases in your fitness program with your horse. So when I look at a fitness program with a horse, I have to say, like, I put the whole year, and a lot of times I'll work in 18-month blocks, but I'll put the whole like time frame with the horse as part of their fitness plan, because a lot of times, like, if I'm working with performance athletes a lot, right? Even their rest cycles are strategic. They're not just like a random time. And so, really, I like to look at that entire big picture and then break that down into these phases I'm about to talk about. Now, this might be a little bit of overkill if you are like a pleasure rider and you mostly trail ride in the summer, that kind of thing. But you can still take these principles and apply them, because we all think about our horses all the time, right? Like, they are on our mind. Their health and soundness and safety is on our mind all the time. And so that's how I work a fitness program. My horse is never not in a fitness program. I would say the one exception to that is if he's in a rehab program because he's gotten hurt. That's like a different swim lane in my mind. But even when my horse is resting, he's still in his program. Okay, so talking about the cycles in, or the phases in a fitness program. I like to break these down into 4 phases in a fitness program, right? And these are kind of the big umbrellas that go over like the weeks and months that you work with your horse. And then under each umbrella, we can have little subcategories. But the big sections are rest, right? There's usually times of the year when your horse is flat out off. You're not riding him or her much. They're turned out, maybe a little, maybe they get turned out. They're off. They're resting. That's a whole side note. If horses do or do not need this, I think sometimes the rest is more for the rider than the horse, but that's neither here nor there for the sake of today's training, right? Another phase so then they come into work, and there's a phase of acclimation to work, right? And underneath there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on when we're preparing their body for load and we're getting them acclimated for what we consider their full workload. And then there's the phase where they get to that fitness level that you want, right? And they're in full work. And all the forces that you're putting on your horse are at its max level. I mean, it might go like this, but you have got your horse now fit enough to do the hardest thing, Not you don't want to do the hardest thing every day, but you can do the hardest thing and let them recover, and then do the hardest thing and let them recover because they are in full work, right? And then the fourth phase that you're going to come in and out of is what I call active rest. And so active rest is, maybe they've been in this like full work phase. Maybe you've gone to a big competition, you come back, you want to give them an easy week, but you're not just going to like do nothing, right? You're going to keep them in a little bit of work. You're just going to let that workload come down because you're planning on, say, in 7 days or 10 days to ramp it back up to its full workload. So those are the four phases, the big phases that I like to think about in a fitness program. So you can see how if I look at my horse's whole schedule over the course of 12 to 18 months, I could break that down into rest periods, acclimation to work, full work, active recovery. Full work, active recovery. Maybe my active recovery was a little bit longer than I had planned. So I'm going to say I'm going to go acclimation to work and then full work. And then whatever, for whatever reason, maybe I have a big personal thing in my life, I'm going to go with some rest. And then if I let my horse rest, I've got to go acclimation to work, back to full work, maybe an active rest, back to full work, so on and so forth. You literally can map out your horse's plan and your plan this way. And there, I have a tool that my equine conditioning planner that helps. That's kind of one of the big purposes of it, is to give you this visual so you know what phase you're in, because you have to know what phase you're in to really understand how to control the amount of stressors that you're asking your horse to take on his body, right? And then inside, I'm just going to do a little bit of a deep dive inside. When you're doing acclimation to work and full work, you then can go and break those down into subcategories. And I tend to put them into 3 subcategories, right? For what I'm doing that day. Am I doing, is it a long and slow day? Is it a speed or strength day? Or is it a skill day, right? So, long and slow, maybe you're just going for an hour hack or trail ride. Maybe this is your trot sets, right? You're cantering out up hills, but it's just sort of an easy lope followed with some trots and some walks, and you're just kind of out there for volume. Your speed or strength day would, be exactly what that sounds like. Like, are you working on going fast, ramping up that intensity, letting it fall back down? Or strength, are you maybe doing like elevated trot poles, jumping like a gymnastic where the horse has to really like power up into the air? That kind of stuff. Are you working on maybe a few steps of a more advanced dressage movement that really requires them to push, etc.? Like, you have to kind of think about what you're asking, right? And then a skill day is really where you're asking a horse to improve their coordination with something. You're working on their motor planning and sequencing, right? So maybe I'm taking a horse and I'm doing, maybe they've never done elevated trot poles. So I'm teaching them how to trot through those elevated poles. I would consider that a skill day. It also, these aren't that clean cut in the sense that it also blends into a power day, right? Because trotting over trot poles is working on their strength and power and skill. So sometimes they kind of like get a little bit muddy. But in our course, we really talk about what are the demands of those different things, and then how much pressure is that putting on the body, and like what is the recovery associated with each of those? Because that's really the big thing you have to understand, right? Is like, let's stick with my elevated cavaletti example. If I'm teaching a horse who's never done it before to trot through those elevated cavalettis, right? And so there's so much going on in that little statement. Like, they have to figure out how to move their feet, place their feet, and spring off the air and clear the bars of the cavaletti, right? So there's a whole motor planning and sequencing event going on that is really like having a lot of neurological engagement because it's a new skill for the horse. And then there's also the whole strength and power thing. So when I say strength and power, they're slightly different, because when you start talking about power, it's force over time, right? So So whereas strength, I'm just looking at force, like how much force can you generate? And with power, I'm like, how much force can you quickly generate so you kind of explode, right? So like think about an elevated cavaletti. I'm asking those muscles to fire um, powerfully or fire like strongly, quickly. And so I'm putting a time component in there. The horse can't be slow with his legs. He's going to get all wrapped up in the cavaletti and trip, right? Which would be, I mean, it happens, but it's not good. And so I have to think about all of those things. So then that ties into recovery, which is what we're going to talk about tomorrow, right? So the more stuff I have going on, the more recovery time my horse is going to need between sets. So I do maybe, let's say I go through the cavaletti like 3 times. I drop the reins. I let my horse walk. I'm going to let my horse walk longer because there was all of those things going on that I had just alluded to, right? And then I'm gonna pick it up and maybe I'm gonna do 3 sets of 3 reps through. And so with a good decent recovery between, right? So that's kind of on skill day, strength and or speed day, long and slow day. You always have to think about like, am I in an acclimation phase or am I in a full work phase? And then to get the most benefit for teaching the horse's body to accept load, how does my recovery tie into all this? And so that's the kind of some of the stuff we learn in the class is how to start to think about that. Like how to start to approach what phase is my horse in, what's my plan for today, based on where he's at in his fitness program, how do I tie in my recovery sessions and set my I'm going to call it weights. Like we don't ask a horse to lift weights like we do ourselves, but how do I set the, demand or the weight of the exercise with the repetitions, with the frequency and the rest periods of the exercise to help my horse get the maximum physical and psychological benefit of it. That all comes into play. So those are some things to think about. Even if you don't take the course, hopefully this is very thought provoking to you and you can start to think about that when you're working your horse. And then if you want to learn more about this stuff, dive into the Equine Fitness Workshop. I'll put the link in the comments. And we get started on Tuesday, May 5th. And I hope to see you all there. Thanks for joining on the Facebook Live, and everybody have a fantastic day.